Alright, this is my Kite Runner analysis video. Just a quick summary over the novel. Amir was born in Kabul, Afghanistan, and one day during a kite flying tournament, he and his friend Hassan got attacked by this boy Asif, and Hassan decided to turn a blind eye in exchange for his father's affection. And then, due to Soviet invasion, Amir and his father go to America, and then Amir feels guilty over what happened to Hassan in the alley, and he seeks redemption over his whole life. And after Hassan is killed, Amir decides to go back to Kabul, his hometown, and rescue his son Sorab. One literary device overbook is characterization. A quote for characterization is I changed my mind and asked for a bigger and fancier kite, but Baba would buy it for me. But then he'd buy it for Hassan too. Sometimes I wish he wouldn't do that. I wish he'd let me be the favorite. By using Amir's point of view, Husseini is able to portray the characterization of Amir, and Amir is able to be sympathized with, but the reader is also frustrated with him. The characterization used in the novel also lets you describe the character and allows the reader to understand the character at a more human level. Another literary device I chose is metaphors. A metaphor is happening in the book when the Soviet invasion happens and it sparks a war in Afghanistan. The Husseini uses the war as a metaphor for the story to describe the internal conflict between Amir. There's a physical war outside, and then there's the mental war inside Amir's head. And Amir feels guilty throughout the whole story, and he's fighting this war. And then at the end, when he rescues his son Sorab, the war ends. There's a lot of imagery in this book, and some quotes for imagery are when Amir is sitting with Baba, and then also when he's describing the city of Kabul. All this use of imagery is used to show how much Amir cares for his father, and so that he describes him in a way that only someone who would care deeply about him would. And they describe the city of Kabul in so much detail that it really makes the reader feel that they're there and they're living in the breathing city of Kabul, which helps you understand the novel better. Another example of blurry device is symbolism. There are multiple examples of symbolism throughout the book. Some examples I put were um, the using Hassan as a symbol of the lamb, and then the kite and pomegranate tree and Hassan's cleft lip. The symbol of the kite is it symbolizes Amir's guilt for what happened to Hassan, and also his happiness because when he was a child he was very happy flying kites with Hassan. But then after what happened to Hassan and Amir turning away from it and running away, it symbolizes his guilt for what happened because he chose the kite and his father over helping Hassan. And the pomegranate tree was also a symbol in the story, and it symbolized Amir and Hassan's friendship because they were that's where they grew up and they're lifelong friends there, and they carved their names into it. But then afterwards, they weren't their friendship would never be the same again, and Hassan dies, and Amir never gets the chance to reconcile with Hassan. And a third symbol is the lamb, because Amir compares Hassan to a lamb, which is normally used to signify innocence and purity, but then Hassan's innocence and purity is taken away by Asif, and so Amir sacrificed the lamb, which would be Hassan in this case, for his father's admiration. And all these symbols are important in the story because they create meaning and emotion for the novel. uh my text to connections. My text itself is that the kite runner connects to me because I am also a person growing up just like Amir was throughout his journey in the novel from child to adulthood, growing and learning. And then the text to text is a book called A Separate Piece. It's similar to The Kite Runner because it also deals with tragedy among friends and using guilt as a motivation to take action. because Amir used his guilt for Hassan to go back to Kabul and help his son, and the character from a separate piece, Gene, uses guilt and he will do anything to prove that he wants forgiveness to his friend Finney. Text to world connection. One attribute from our society that's also in the real world is that when Amir and his father Baba go to America to flee from the Soviet invasion of Kabul, that people also do that in the real life. From places such as Africa, where people are starving and war and poverty, they also come to America in our actual society to flee from all this horrible situations. The settings in this story, the main two settings are San Francisco, California, and Kabul, Afghanistan. Kabul is a war-torn country where Baba was wealthy and respected, but it contrasts to San Francisco, where they moved to later on, because it offers Baba little wealth or identity, but it gives Amir a place to escape his baggage. And when it takes place in the story, San Francisco, it was a place where there were a lot of jobs and rent was low, and there was a lot of earthquakes, and many things shaped the landscape of San Francisco, such as society and physical attributes. And then Kabul was a war-torn country during the 1980s, which made families have to leave, and then it just really messed up the country. Some of my favorite quotations from the book is, "A boy who won't stand up for himself becomes a man who can't stand up to anything." I enjoy this quote because it showed Amir's character flaw, which was his cowardice, but his cowardice motivates him throughout the story to seek redemption throughout the novel, and then in the end he finally stands up, which was a theme brought up in the very beginning from this quote, for what is right by standing up for Sorab. And then another quote I liked was, "My body was broken just how badly I wouldn't find out until later, but I felt healed at last. I laughed." I enjoyed this quote because Amir thought he was never truly punished for what happened to Hassan in the alley, and now he got what he believes he deserves. It is a very weird moment to laugh at, but due to the circumstances of him getting beat up and him having to punish for all his what he did to Hassan back in the day, the laughter feels deserved, and I can understand it. My third and last favorite quote was, "For you, a thousand times over." It's what Hassan said to Amir when they were boys and flying kites, and then Amir also said it to his son Sorab at the end of the novel. This quote was my favorite to me because it showed how much Hassan cared for Amir. Even after Amir treated him badly, he would still do anything for him a thousand times over. And then later on, it said again, and it showed how Amir finally learned that loyalty to Amir wasn't a flaw; it was actually Hassan's greatest strength, and Amir embraced that and learned his true strength. Some unique discoveries I found was that the author of the novel, Khalid Hosseini, was born in Kabul, and then in the Soviet invasion of 1979, his family fled to California, and he actually used his life story to inspire the novel of The Kite Runner and Amir's journey from Kabul, growing up in Kabul to California. Another unique discovery I found was that the name Hassan actually means to be beautiful or to be good. This is an interesting observation because Hassan is considered to have a physical flaw, keeping him from being conventionally attractive. But he still tries to be good and beautiful. And he lives up to his name's meaning. Because on the other hand, the name Amir means to be an Arab ruler. And growing up, Amir had the means and social status to rise and be a ruler, but he was unable to realize the potential of the name he was given. My final analysis. Overall, my final thoughts on the novel, The Kite Runner, was that it was a very impactful book. I actually enjoyed it because it allowed me to reflect on my own life and all the actions I've taken. Husseini's vivid and human storytelling was so memorable that I could definitely read another one of his novels, because the book still feels fresh and very impactful to young readers now. Some useful information for a Q3 essay. I took a quote from the Marxist perspective, literary criticism, that said, "Ultimately, his desire but inability to accept Hassan stifle their friendship and tear Amir apart." This quote would be helpful in a Q3 essay because it proves the universal theme of how Amir was scared to actually accept Hassan as his friend, and he let the environment around him shape his morals, and it tore their friendship apart. Even though deep down he truly liked Hassan as his friend, but um, he just couldn't accept him. And the second quote I chose for the Q3 essay was from Guilt as a Driving Force of Humanity, and it said, "If not for Amir's guilty conscience, he might never have had the ambition to travel back, and travel back is to Kabul." This quote would be useful in a Q3 essay because it shows Amir's character motivation for his actions. If he didn't feel guilty, he probably wouldn't have gone back to Kabul and saved Sohrab. And this also applies to Baba, his father, because if Baba wasn't guilty for his actions, he wouldn't have done all the good he did for his community in Kabul, and everything might have been very different.